Hi guys.
Hi.
And welcome to the Quint. I'll start off by asking you, this is the first time that any of you is doing a horror film. So what was the first thought that came to you when the proposal of making a film for ghost stories came your way? I'll start with you, Zoya.
I was very excited because I haven't done something like this before. I'm quite a fan of the classic ghost story, and I just wanted to explore this. So I was very, very excited to do this.
I was grateful. I was grateful that I was getting the funding.
Right.
I was like, "Mauka mila, bhago, ab leke.
Yeah.
Don't discuss anymore, run."
Yeah, I suggested it ironically, and then it was the biggest scare I got was to kind of actually execute it, because it's not something that I've done before or have any interest in doing. It was something that I thought would put me into an uncomfortable position as a filmmaker, which is always a good position to be in sometimes. And I took it as, well, I wouldn't say challenge, I just took it as an opportunity to kind of venture into another terrain altogether and hopefully deliver something that kind of, you know, goes with the anthology and doesn't stick out.
She's dead. वो गुजरी नहीं है, सिर्फ मर गई.
I just saw it as an opportunity. I always wanted to do a ghost horror story.
Did you co-write Con?
Yeah.
Did you have that? That
I
was
did co-write.
You wrote.
I was a writer of course.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
My second script I wrote. My first solo credit.
Oh.
Even Bhoot you had something to do with, no?
No, it started with the idea, but then I had moved on. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I wrote. I wanted to do horror. At the same time, the kind of horror I like, which is slow burn, kind of atmospheric, is very hard to sell as a film.
Okay.
So this for me is an opportunity to do, because I had tried selling a horror script for 3.5 years. Nobody wanted to buy into it. And then I had lost the rights on it.
Okay.
So this for me was an opportunity to create that kind of horror that if it works, I can use it as a reference to pitch my feature. If it doesn't work, I'll learn.
So John Carpenter, the Hollywood, who's filmmaker who's popularly known for horror, has said that
And
horror
does
is
his own background score.
horror is a universal language. We are all afraid. We are born afraid. We are all afraid of things, death, disfigurement, loss of a loved one, etc. So I just want to know from each of you, what are your fears? I'm not talking about phobias, fears.
Last one, loved ones.
Loss of a loved
But
one.
every time, when I come on social media, only thing I'm scared of is I'm putting my people at risk.
Right.
You know, people I care about, people who work with me, people who are my friends and things, and because everybody starts getting phone calls because they know I don't listen. So that's kind of a thing.
I think that is pretty much my fear as well. I don't really fear things. I'm not a very I don't get afraid of situations or people or circumstances, because I feel like I have the resilience to rise above it. But what is not in my control is life and death, right? That is not in my control. And I think I'm all about my emotional equations and relationships. And I think every time I've kind of lost, like when I did lose my father, and that was something I was afraid of, and when it happened, you feel like, that's exactly what you were afraid of all along. And similarly now, I have so many loved ones in my life and in my immediate surrounding. That's my big fear, is the loss of people, not my own death. It's really the people because you don't want to live without those people.
Dibakar.
I have all of them. Name one fear and I have.
I also fear losing my memory.
You've added one now.
But you know what?
Thank you.
If you lose your memory, you won't realize it.
You won't
So,
realize
so it's not something you should be afraid of.
I forget names. I forget. I will one day forget your name. It happens to you?
No, and sometimes you're just like.
It happens to me with recall.
With recall, no, you know it, but you don't know it. And I have a fear of very close spaces. I get claustrophobic. I don't like being in elevators with too many people. It makes me extremely uncomfortable.
No, but that's a phobia. Fear.
Fear. Okay, like an emotional fear. I think I have a fear of losing loved ones. I think that's a general common one. I have a feir of irrelevance, maybe.
But all of us.
Yeah.
At the end of my career, if I am mediocre or irrelevant, that would just be a shame. That's my biggest fear, I think, work-wise. But otherwise, there are fears like rats and closed spaces and crowded spaces, those type of things.
Now, when you're directing a drama, your immediate need is to evoke a certain relatability or empathy with the character of your film. But when you're directing something like a horror film, there is a need to scare. So was that an added burden while you were making the film, that okay, am I scaring enough?
You know, I feel like most of the good ghost stories or the good genre stories that I've seen tap into that core human fear. They tap into something very core to you, to a person, which is why they resonate, which is why they scare you. I mean, the trappings can be different, but thematically, they are playing with the human emotion anyway. So if you know that, like that's your context, that's your bed, and what are the fears you're pushing with people, I think then you build over that. So you don't have to do anything extra because it's horror, it's, you know, whatever. I mean, for me, with this story, I think I explored themes of like the fear of abandonment, the fear of aging, the horror of aging, actually, and fear of death. So I knew those were the themes I was playing with, and then it was easier for me to navigate the story emotionally and dramatically.
दरवाजे पे कोई है?
कोई नहीं है दरवाजे पे।
No, I kind of agree with her because the thing is, every horror film has to be the perfect mix of two things. What are you afraid of, and what are you afraid for? So these two things will make that perfectly engaging horror story. I mean, in Shining, you're afraid for that child who's bicycling all over the Overlook Hotel. So it's that. All the classics make you engage. Blair Witch Project, you know that these three stupid college kids are heading for something wrong, and you're saying, don't go there, yet they go. So that's the ultimate fear.
पापा कहाँ हैं आपके?
खा गए इसके पापा को।
I think that because the genre was so alien to me, I just think I had to just get the beats of telling the story right. Within that, I designed a few like so-called scare moments, and they were part of the narrative. But I didn't want to treat it like a jump scare, like a serious jump scare. I felt like I had to underline it with some humor. That was a challenge to kind of find the soul of the film, you know, the tonality. Because any which way the syntax of horror is alien to me, and then to find it within this narrative, and then, you know, it was like I was just like all over the place trying to figure it out. And a lot of it happened on the set itself. Like, you know, there was a lot of trial and terror happening. And it was like what it was, you know, it was like I was in the company of really talented technicians. And I think that really helped me kind of, you know, bring out like whatever the best there was in me for that genre.
ग्रानी, सॉरी, वो खटखटाते हुए नहीं सुना। गुड नाइट, जस्ट से गुड नाइट।
किसे ध्रुव गुड नाइट कहो, मुझे कोई दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है।
नहीं, डोंट बी अपसेट।
I wanted to creep people out. My thing was like I just wanted to take people into a place where they're like, oh my god. And I think not a burden. We just wanted to do things. There were one or two choices, hard choices to make. Do we show this or do we not show this? Because we were pushing in a direction, and I didn't have to fight for it because I'm also telling a story from a perspective of a woman, and you know, you can't have a male perspective on when you're telling the story of a woman and her trauma and things. So I put that as a discussion between the people. So I was part of the discussion, sitting between Clover and this the writer who was arguing with Clover, who was arguing with the makeup woman and everything, and they all had dealt with things and issues which were very personal to them. I left it to them. Should we show it? If we do, then how much do we show it? Okay. And I took the decision that came forth. That's it.
पापा, जब मासी की बेबी आएगा, मासी मुझको प्यार नहीं करेगी।
My last question is, the OTT platform is of course such a great avenue to make new content, and one of the biggest attractions of this platform is that there is no censorship. But of late, there have been moves to try to regulate. You know, there is cases being made. The most recent being that there was this Panjanya article which talked about one particular show.
I think that conversation has stopped now.
No, but you never know because it's making a case.
Like but some censorship are the same. Everything must coexist. This is what I keep telling people.
Do you think self-regulation is the way out instead of having a
not
body
just
which
self-regulation,
watches over?
Self-censorship. People do practice that. I'm thinking, in spite of me being against censorship, I have some things I would not put out in movies, and I have my own responsibility that I think are my responsibility. In some words, people say must be responsibility. They're not responsibilities because I will not handle my audience with. I want them to grow and make adult decisions if they want to call themselves being adult. Being adult is not just being 18; it's making your own decisions.
Right.
So I would put them in uncomfortable situations and things where they have to make a choice. So for me, I am totally anti-censorship, any kind of a censorship.
I've always felt that with censorship, and I wish that we can move towards, whether it comes to cinema, I wish that we would move towards certification and not censorship.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I wish there would be there is like the BBC, like the British Board of Certification actually gives you an accurate age limit for each content and film that you put out, whether it's 12, 15, 18, whatever
and
it
also,
may be.
I think all OTT platforms have child locks.
I think vis-a-vis digital, it's very tough to I would not want there to be censorship because it's such an amazingly liberated platform, and I think it's really up to the best interests of the parents, and if they feel that there is something that the children should not have access to, then that is something that you'll have to do on your own. But for cinema, I definitely believe in certification and not censorship.
Dibakar?
I think completely agree with Anurag and Karan, and whatever Zoya will say, I know that I'll agree with it. There's one twist in the matter, which is about the current situation. It's okay to talk about self-censorship, but sometimes what we call self-censorship is an outer layer, and the inner reason for not doing something is ultimately fear. We are afraid, as I said, that we are all afraid for ourselves and afraid of something. And that situation happens when the state, very smartly, not showing itself to be the source of the fear, lets loose certain forces and then says, how can we help? That happened. We are not stopping you. We are stopping you because there is unrest and civil unrest and lack of peace and lives will get lost. Do you want your film to be responsible for that? And then that begs the question that what the hell are you there for? You're supposed to be the state. You're supposed to protect every voice that exists in your society. And you're saying, what can we do? These voices are getting very violent. They are breaking buses. They are doing this. They are burning. So to stop them and to stop innocent lives, we are stopping you from getting that film in this festival that you've planned. And then the big money that colludes and finances, unfortunately, our films are made by other people's money. And when the big money and big capital that colludes with the state, they say, hey, listen, it's just an event. Why are you being the bitter guy in the mix? Why are you stopping this nice party to go ahead? Drop that film, no. What will happen? What happens then? That's something that all filmmakers, all media people, and all the members of the audience should be very, very watchful about and raise a voice against, which finally I hope they're raising.
I mean, I think I agree with each one's point. And I don't believe in censorship. I absolutely believe in certification. I'm also very aware as a storyteller, filmmaker, what I'm putting out there, because I think people need to know what they're putting out. They are putting a consciousness out there. So there is a certain amount of awareness that I hope filmmakers have. But having said that, you watch the news, you read the newspaper. I'm a woman that lives in this country. The kind of stories I read about what's happening with women. I mean, it's all over. It's for any child to read, any child to see. It's on the news. After that, you're going to tell me to censor a love scene. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Here.
You know what I mean? It's just, I find it it doesn't make any sense to me.
Absolutely right. Thanks so much.
On that lovely, friendly note, we part on Ghost Stories.
Bye.